There we go. So hi everyone, my name is Lynn, and we are doing a series of training for the next few weeks. So today we're talking about emotional intelligence. I'm going to move to the first slide, which is here. Okay, so what is emotional intelligence? Would anyone like to share what they think it is? What do you think is emotional intelligence, Max?
I'm gonna guess it's the ability to express your emotions in a healthy way.
Correct. Yes, 100%. So, oh, I just did something wrong. What can you see on your side? Is it split in two or split in one? Can you see the screen as a full screen or a single screen?
I see it as a full screen.
A full screen. Okay, sorry, I must just redo this. I did something strange with it. I'm not used to working from PowerPoint. That is why I don't work in PowerPoints. Makes me crazy. Okay, let's start again. Emotional intelligence. What is emotional intelligence? So the first thing we need to look at is self-awareness. So who of you know what self-awareness is? What do you think is self-awareness, Jenny?
I feel like self-awareness is when you know what your strengths and weaknesses are, and yeah.
Yes. So self-awareness is the ability to know thyself. So it's getting to know what sets you off, what makes you happy, what makes you unhappy, why you respond or react to the world at large. So when something doesn't go your way, we tend to react in a certain way. So the more self-aware you become, the more you are able to control your emotions and respond to the situation instead of reacting. So self-awareness is also good for you to understand your values, what is important to you, and your values are shaped by your past experience, the way you've been brought up, society. There's different ways of becoming more self-aware. And another good thing for you to be aware is your strength and your weaknesses. So the more you are able to understand your strengths, you know what will work for you and what will not work for you. And the same goes for your weaknesses. What can you build onto? What can you do more of? What can you do less of? So I would like to find out from you, what do you think is your strengths and weaknesses? Maybe Chanel, if you want to share with us.
Share about what?
Sorry, what do you think is your strength? What do you think you're good at? And what do you think is your weakness? What do you think you're not so good at?
For the weakness, I think my weakness is mainly about the language or remember something. Sometimes I feel hard to remember something, and it's same as the languages. It's hard to learn about the new vocabularies.
Yes, good one. Well done. Yes. And your strength?
Yeah, I think I'm good at logical thinking. That and I'm good to solve math problems or physics problems.
Okay, good. Yes, well done. That's exactly what we are talking about. So you are quite self-aware, knowing your strength and you know your weaknesses. And why that is important is, for instance, you know that you can up your skill in the weakness area. So you will, for instance, do extra learning on learning languages or practice speaking more or reading a bigger different kinds of books to get a broader vocabulary. And your strength is obviously the thing that excites you, and that is most often that leads towards your purpose and the thing that you will end up doing in life and your career. Okay, so the next step that we look at is self-management. So I said earlier, reacting versus responding. So in let's see, quick example. You bump your toe, and the first thing you do is normally what?
You say ow.
Yeah, you scream and say, ow. You are reacting. So it's an instant reaction to the pain. Now, if you become better at emotional intelligence, you are able to manage your emotions by responding. So an example would be you bump your toe, and instead of shouting, ow, Aina, you would say, take a deep breath and say, oh, that was painful. So that there's a little shift that comes with self-awareness and self-management, where you learn to adapt to change and how to manage yourself better. And it is a process and it is a journey, and it doesn't come overnight, but the more you become aware of it, the better your chances are of becoming more emotionally intelligent. So when I speak about adapting to change, it is very simple fact of the one thing you require when you want to adapt to change is to be open-minded. So as long as you are open-minded to the possibilities of the unknown, because that is ultimately what change is, right? And most people are afraid of change because it's the unknown, and that is scary. So you can prepare for the unknown by doing research on what is possible scenarios that you can enter. So the better you are prepared, the better you will be able to respond to change. But before that, you need to first be open-minded, because a lot of us have our own subconscious biases that has been shaped by, again, our past experiences, the situation, the place where we find ourselves in, the country, the society, rules, college, school, parents, news, social media. It all influence our decisions on a daily basis. So the more we are aware of how we respond to the world, the better we are able to react in a better way. So that moment between reaction and responding becomes smaller. So before you know it, if you practice it long enough, you'll stop reacting to things and start responding to situations. If anyone is unclear about this, please do ask questions, because it does take a while to understand the differences and how to adapt to these changes. Okay, so then the next thing we look at is empathy. So the empathy is a big difference from sympathy. So some of us have sympathy with other people. So your brother comes into the house and says, oh, my girlfriend just broke up with me, I'm so sad. And you've got sympathy for them, for the brother. So you won't have empathy unless you can put yourself in that person's shoes. So empathy is when you can literally say, oh, you know what, I know exactly what you feel like. I also have, had a broken heart before. And the same happens in business environment. So your colleague will come in and say, I didn't get that promotion. And you will have sympathy for the person and say, oh, I'm so sorry. You know, next time you can try a little bit harder, say something nice, and that's that. But if you've got empathy for that person, you will say, oh, you know what? I also put myself out there before for that position. I didn't get it. I was absolutely gutted. So there's a big shift if you can actually relate to someone with their pain or discomfort or their celebration, you know, the things that they celebrate in life, and how you celebrate your own successes and in life. Now, with empathy, there's always been the age-old request, or not request, a bit of an argument, if you can call that, versus value and virtue, which is also can relate to nature versus nurture. So some people say, some philosophers or psychologists say that we are born with certain virtues, but values we can learn. Now, some people say it doesn't, you can't learn it. It is either something that is with you, or that's just how life is. You must just accept it. So the nature versus nurture is the case of the two brothers, the twin brothers, that is born obviously from the same mother, same womb, same day. But the one twin brother was brought up in a healthy environment where the parents loved the child and gave it lots of attention, and there was a lot of support for this person, versus the other brother where there was neglect and very little support for the brother. They would say the nurture, the one that had the most support from the household and where he was brought up, would do better in life than the one that didn't have that support. Now, you've both heard, you must have all heard the different versions between this, where they say, well, the one that wasn't brought up in a great environment committed crimes and ended up in jail, and the one that became wildly successful. But then you also get the opposite side of the same twins, and the one that was brought up in a very good, safe environment, just did not do anything with his life, and the one that had very little support in his life exceeded everyone's expectations. And that is the nature versus nurture side of this equation. So I would like to hear from you. What do you think it is? Which one do you think has got the strongest influence? Is it nature or is it nurture? Maybe Deborah. Deborah, would you like to share with us what you think is
Sorry,
the most
I
prominent?
stepped away from my computer for a moment. What was the question?
So do you think nature or nurture is the biggest influencer of our success and happiness in life?
I think both. I
You
think,
think it's together?
yes.
Yeah.
I think being from nature, being who you are in your, personality development, I think that's part biological, and the other part is, the environment you grew up in, how were you supported by your parents and your loved ones, and that sort of thing.
Yes, love that. Thank you. Yeah, so you know what? This is going to be an open discussion. You know, you've all heard the chicken and egg situation, and we will always come back to this one where the people, one half of the people will say, no, 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 no. You made it despite everything that bad, all the bad hand that you were given at life. You rised despite all your challenges. So I like to remind my clients when I do coaching with them, is that your current situation does not define you. So where you are right now, your environment that you are, doesn't define your life going forward. So that is your choice in life, and that is your nurture. How do you nurture your life and your personal development and your skills and your talents and your dreams and your goals to push yourself forward? Okay, so then we look at number 4, which is relationship management. How well do you communicate? So there are quite a lot of information on communication. Last week I did how to speak with confidence. So there are so many different tools that you can use, what you already have. But to be a really good communicator takes one thing. Would anyone like to share with me what they think is that one thing that requires you to be a good communicator? Maybe Brigitte, would you like to share?
Sorry, could you repeat the question, please?
What do you think? What's the one thing that you need to do to be a good communicator?
I guess just sort of be open.
Yes, correct. Yeah. Anything else?
Yeah. Just yeah, I guess be willing to sort of talk about what problems you have, but then
I like that.
think about how you talk about it as well and how you say it.
Yes, I like that. Well done. Yes. Okay, so one simple thing, and some of us are not that good at doing this. Some of us are naturally good in the skill, but otherwise you're going to have to learn. So that one thing is to be able to listen. So listening is normally not a natural skill for a lot of people, especially the people who come across as very outgoing and fluent and good, great communicators. Not always the case, because they don't keep quiet for long enough to actually listen to what the other person is saying. And there's true magic in this ability. If you can master this skill, to every time you want to say something, it's just take a deep breath and just sit and listen. Listen to what that person is really saying. Try and ascertain from their body language, what message is this person truly trying to give away to me? Because oftentimes it's not the words that we use, it's the way we say it or our body language. So oftentimes we will find someone smiling like this to us. Now, this is very clearly not a happy smile because it doesn't reach your eyes. But if you're too busy talking, you don't have the opportunity to actually listen and take in what this person is truly trying to communicate with you. Handling conflict. Yeah. So I would like to hear from you who you think you are. Are you a avoider? Are you assertive? Or are you an aggressive person? Who would like to go first? Jenny, how do you communicate with people? Or how do you handle conflict?
I would say that I can get like defensive when it comes to conflict.
Yes, yes. Most people do. It's either avoiding or going into the other zone where you get aggressive and want to just fight or flight. And then you get that beautiful Goldilocks middle ground of where you are just assertive and you're just so perfect. Okay. So going back to the communication section, we spoke about how well do we communicate. So how well do we listen? When you speak with someone, do you speak with clarity, confidence, and control of your emotions, especially if you are discussing a heated topic? So this might be a conversation that is not very easy to have, and you are emotionally attached to the outcome, or you feel threatened or you feel hurt, that your emotions have been hurt by this person's words, for instance, then how are you able to communicate this message to the other person? So clarity and confidence and being able to control your emotions is when you're able to be self-aware. Now, there's a beautiful trick or tool, strategy, whatever you want to call it, on how to manage your emotions better. And oftentimes I like to compare, I like to think of this wonderful life that we have, that we get to experience every single day as a game. It really is just the game that we play every single day. It's called the game of life. Now, we might not always win, but we always have to play, right? So I like to compare it to a board game. So on this board game that each and every one of us have, Brigitte, Shangal, Jenny, Deborah, Max, all of us, every single one of us have received our own board game. And on this board game, there's different characters. There's different, whether you're playing chess or whatever game you are playing, doesn't matter. There's different characters that fulfill this game. And there's generally quite a few rules that you have to abide by. So all the players on the board game has to abide by the rules so that you've got a fair outcome, right? Now, think of you as the person, as the board. So you're not the characters, but you are the board. And this board has seen many games, many games. It has seen games where you lose terribly, and there's lots of pain and shame and loss and anger or frustration going on in this game. But this board has also seen happy games where you won, where you were celebrated, where everything just worked out for you. So it was a great game. But the board doesn't care. The board is just there just to host the different characters. Whether you win or lose, it continues. It will always be there. And that is part of the self-awareness process, is to take yourself out of the bigger picture, or of the picture, the board game, and just see yourself as the game, the board, where all these things are happening and you are the one in charge of it. So you don't get too attached to the outcomes. So the emotion will not be able, you won't be able to lose your control of your emotions because you're not emotionally attached to it. You enjoy life. Every day you pitch up, you play to the best of your abilities. And tomorrow is another day. If you didn't succeed today, you still have tomorrow. Okay, off topic a little bit, but I love that analogy. When you communicate, do you use persuasive or emotive words? So there is powerful, persuasive words where you can influence the people around you. These beautiful sounds that come out of my mouth is words. It forms words to your ears that your brain register as a meaning. It's got a meaning attached to it. Now, Shangao, if I was speaking to you in Afrikaans, you would have absolutely no idea what I'm speaking to you. None of you would, unless you know Afrikaans, right? So this tool that we have, every single one of us, well, most people are born with ability to speak. So the words that we choose every day influence our life. So what words are you choosing to gift to the world around you? When you speak to people, what sort of language do you use? Is it positive? Is it powerful? Is it uplifting? Or is it negative, sad, aggressive, anger? What sort of words do you use? So I want you to think for a second and just think of your last discussion or your last conversation or email that you sent. What words did you use in that email? Was it apologetic? Was it sorry, I didn't mean to, or I was so terrible at that? Or did you use power words where you said, this time I did not succeed, but tomorrow I'm going to do better. Do you understand what I'm trying to get at? Try to think of your words as gifts, and how can you use better, more powerful words for the people around you? Communication and responding to messages in a timely fashion. Oh, my favorite pet hate. When people don't respond to emails, it's just human nature, and people, I guess, are busy. But when you know someone and you're expecting, this person is expecting your response from you, it is good manners to respond within a 24-hour period. And I love the technique. I learned this when I started my first business 13 years ago, and it's the 2-minute rule. If a task is going to take 2 minutes or less, do it now. Don't postpone it, because those 2 minutes, just thinking about it, adds another 2 minutes to it, and then another 2 minutes to procrastinate and put something off. So if something can be done within 2 minutes or less, do it. Then also, how pleasant are you to work with? Are you able to smile? Do you appear positive when dealing with people? Or is your emotions negative and bringing a little bit of a downer to your environment? So yeah, I want you to think about that, of how you can become a more pleasant person to work with. When we look at the art of persuasion, it is quite important for you to be able to repeat your message as often times as possible and as many different ways as possible. The shorter, most simpler words you can use, the better. So we like to think that we need to speak in complicated manners and use big words. No. If you can take a complicated topic or issue or challenge and explain it in simple, short manner, that is the best way for you to be able to communicate in an efficient manner. So my favorite is how to make your point using storytelling. We all love a story. So how can you relay your message in a way that is captivating your audience, that they can actually understand, that they know, that you take them on a journey where they can see themselves in that journey. That is how you get connection and true buy-in from the people around you. So I say you don't, or try to make your communication personal. So do research on the person you wish to persuade, insert something personal or important for them to make your point, and preferably not aggressive or invasive. So how many of you have got a sponsor or mentor or a friend or a colleague that you can bounce some ideas off? So I want you to think of someone that you have that you could potentially bounce some ideas off, so that you can present the message in a different ways and see what they think of it. And then if you can prove it works, even better. Now you just need to get them excited and use positive words to get the people on board with your message. Is there any questions before we go to the next part? No, all good. Okay. So this is the conflict slide. And Jenny, I asked you earlier, do you, when you deal with conflict, do you become angry and aggressive when you're confronted with something, or do you handle it with ease and calm, or do you run away? Max, what do you think? Which one are you?
I'm usually more non-confrontational. So
Okay.
avoid.
You avoid people. Okay. Shanghai?
Yeah.
Which one do you think you are?
Not really sure about it.
So when someone approach you with something that's an uncomfortable conversation, do you pretend to not hear them and move away? Or do you respond and say, well, I didn't get it? Do you respond in an aggressive and angry way? Or do you say, oh, actually, what you said was not right. I don't like what you said to me.
I think it depends. If it's really important, I will try to argue. But if not really important, says since I think anything is okay, what you think is all right.
Okay. Okay. So you're mostly assertive.
Yeah.
Okay. And you, Deborah?
Conflict.
Sorry. Okay.
Sorry, I'm having trouble with my mute button. I
Oh.
avoid.
Oh, you're an avoider. Okay.
Yes.
I wonder if this is the same for all of you, but I find as you go through life, the way you handle these things also change. So, for instance, when I was a youngster, up until probably mid-30s, yeah. So most of my life up until my mid-30s, I was an aggressive communicator. So when there was conflict, I would just tackle it on with aggression, not try to persuade the person or try to win them over. I would just like, I don't like what you did. You should have done this. Not in a very kind and compassionate manner. And from my 35 and up, I started avoiding. So then I reached the point where I just thought, you know what, it's not worth my energy and my time to have this confrontations, and I'll rather just avoid the whole situation, which is also not good because your voice gets lost. And it's important for you to be able to stand up for yourself when things go wrong. So I'm still trying to be assertive. I'm still don't have it 100% down, but I am 200% better than what I was 10 years ago or 5 years ago. So every year it gets better. The more you practice it, the more you try and use the game board scenario, what do you call it, analogy in mind, is just to get emotionally unattached to the situation and just say, you know what you did was not right. I would like either an apology or I'm going to remove myself from this situation. And things do change, and people appreciate you. And I found that oftentimes there was a simple, silly little miscommunication that happened. So the person that you are angry with, that you think is confronting you, or the conflict that you think is happening, is all in your mind. It's not real. But you handled it because you internalized it and just responded or reacted with aggression or avoidance and just ghosted the person and stopped and ignored them going forward. But if you actually had the time to speak to the person and say, I don't appreciate what you said, and you become assertive and say, let's have a discussion. I would really like to get down to the bottom of this. You'll be pleasantly surprised that it was 9 out of 10 times just a miscommunication. That's it. We miscommunicate daily with the people around us and we don't even know it. And then we make assumptions about why they are behaving towards us in a certain manner. We take it personally. Okay, the last slide is just a quick little example on how to deal with conflict. So the first one, confront the situation as it arises. Don't let it simmer and hope it will just go away. And I think most of us do that. And I'm not saying go and confront every situation that comes in on your path. You know that there are some things that should just be left alone, and some things is worth fighting for, right? But most of the time, confront the situation as it arises. So if something happens, go to them and say, I didn't get that. Can you just repeat that again to me? I just didn't understand what you were trying to say there. And then you'll probably find out that it was just a miscommunication. When you know that there is definite conflict happening, again, take a step back and see if you can find a common ground where you can solve the problem. So there's a win-win situation for both parties. When you can get into that mindset of getting a win-win for both parties, yourself and the other person who you are in conflict with, that will completely transform the way you see life going forward. If that doesn't happen and doesn't help, and you've tried these techniques, then and you're in a work environment, we would strongly suggest that you go and have a formal complaints procedure and find a mediator to facilitate the meeting. That's obviously the last thing that you want to the last resort you want to go to, but sometimes you have to do that. So, and number 4 is, find out why the conflict happened. When we learn the art of compassion and letting go, that is when the magic happens. If we can try and see that person from a point of compassion, and that they didn't mean to hurt you or upset you, that they were just doing what they thought was best for them in the scenario. Okay, not everything is your problem to solve. That's a good reminder. So quick little tips on how to handle a boss that is perhaps not that is a little bit more difficult to manage. The first rule, and if nothing else, the only rule, never berate that person. So don't point at that your boss's faults or mistakes in public, or even if it's in private. You could obviously go to your boss in a professional manner, and if they did something that is unacceptable, then there is platforms for you to go through. You can go through your HR department or through facilitators, but most bosses would actually be appreciative if you can just speak to them in a compassionate manner and in a respectful manner. Don't take it personally. We all think that that person is so mean to us and they did it on purpose. It's most of the time not that. Then think of ways that you can preempt his or her moods. So this is a fun one, is perhaps you notice that your boss starts getting cranky around lunchtime. Get him a snack. It really is, small acts of kindness wins every time. If you can, do it. There's nothing wrong with being kind to someone, especially if you know that they can set the mood. Some people, when they enter the room, the whole energy just shifts, hopefully for the better. But there are those who, when they enter the room, they just suck all the good, positive energy out of it. Try and avoid those people. And if you can't, and that is your boss, then try and find a way that you can perhaps alleviate their stresses. You never know what truly is going on in their minds and hearts. Just keep focusing on what you're doing right. Know that what you are doing is the right thing. Don't get influenced into thinking that it's you. The whole gaslighting effect. It's not always you. So don't take responsibility for other people's wrongdoings if it's not your fault. I love showing innovation. So that is when you can see your boss is taking strain, go to them and say, listen, I've got time, or I've got a real passion for this charity. Can I take this workload off your shoulders? See how things will shift, I promise you. And if nothing else, stay away until the mood is subsided.